Welcome to another Sparks Enterprise Architect Masterclass, and once again we will be working with Enterprise Architect version 15.2, which I'll just open now. So behind the scenes there is this cloud of elements with lots of interrelationships. So now if I drag in class 1, I can drop it as a link. Now this is important because that maintains a link to the single class 1 element which appears on many diagrams. Now I can start from this element of interest, but I might be interested in what has been linked to it in previous examples, and I can look at that through the traceability windows. But also usefully, I can right click on an element and choose insert related elements. That brings up a dialog over here. Now I've only used associations so far, but you can filter by various existing relationships here. But it's showing that class 1 is somehow related to class 4 and class 6. But I can also go down multiple levels. So now I can see that class 1 is related to class 4 and 6. But another leap ahead, element 1 and 5 become involved, and class 5 become involved, then class 2, and then class 7. So I'm going to put in the 4 steps away, the 3 steps away, and oh no, why not put all of them in there, except class 6 perhaps. Let's put all of them in there. Now I can put all of those in there, and I'm now interrogating the potentially complex web of information that I've built up through various views. Okay. Now, as well as elements related to each other, you can add other information about each of the elements and relationships. If you go to the Portals tab on the right hand side and select Properties, this brings up a pane where you can see some of the underlying data of elements and also relationships and diagrams. So elements come with standard fields out of the box. Name and type are obvious ones. Stereotype, which classifies different elements in different ways and can be used to drive the tagged values, which we'll come on to later, as well as the look and in some cases behavior of elements. For example, conditional formatting. And some other standard fields like status, freeform version, obviously useful for version control. Perhaps the most useful area are these tags or tagged values in full. So at the moment there aren't any tagged values, but clicking on the new tagged value icon allows you to add a user-defined field. For example, this could be part number. So now we have a new field called part number, and I can put in whatever that information is. And at the moment it is free form. Okay. You can add as many of these tag values as you like. Price. Material. And as you can see, these fields can be alphanumeric, anything you like at the moment. Okay. So clicking on different elements, you can, so clicking on an element, you can see any information that has been embedded on it. So this is just on this particular diagram, which I'll just save with Control S. Going back to the other diagram, clicking on class 1 again, you can see the properties remain because we are looking at a single source of truth. So class 1, as it appears on any diagram, is the same element in the browser. So clicking over here in the browser, you can see class 1 has the 3 tag values I've just added, as do all of the diagrams. And equally, if I change the name of an element anywhere, I'll change it here. I'll change that to tagged element, press return, and you can see that the name has changed obviously on this diagram, package 1 diagram, and over here in the browser. And that's a very useful aspect of any modeling tool, being able to maintain your single source of truth and have any changes filter through the diagram immediately. And that goes for the relationships between the elements too. So the relationship between element 1 and class 4 appears on this diagram. 1 and 4, it appears on this diagram. And if you click on an element in the package browser, the traceability window reflects that relationship too, all of the relationships. But if I delete a relationship, I can do this by right-clicking, delete connector, and this brings up a window to either hide the connector just on this diagram, but it keeps that relationship in the underlying data, so it will still appear in the traceability window and on other diagrams. But if I delete the connector from the model, that deletes it from everywhere. So clicking OK here, you can see that now on package 1, the relationship between element 1 and class 4 has disappeared on this diagram too, and indeed in the traceability window as well. So you can see that the information is reflected in all views within EA immediately any change is made. Okay, so we have an element called tagged element, and I've added 3 tagged values. Now you note that none of the other elements have those tagged values. Now I could go through and recreate the tagged values as I did before. A useful way of, one way of speeding that up slightly is to go to the configure. A more useful way of creating a type of tagged value that is can be quickly added to elements is to click on the configure tab and then click on UML types. And here we can create stereotypes, cardinality values, but I'm focusing on tagged values in particular. So here I'm going to call, I'm going to give the tag the name part number. The detail is important, but we'll come back to that later. So I'm going to save this new tagged value called part number. I'm going to create one called material. And the other one was cost. So now we've got 3 new tagged values, cost, grade, and material. So now I can click on an element click on create new tag. Now I can go to the drop down menu and very quickly add my predefined tagged values. Bit of keyboard trouble here. So now that I've defined my predefined, so now that I have predefined tag values, I can quickly apply those to an element in the same way as before, but instead of typing in their tag, I can quickly go to the drop down and choose the tag value and enter its value as well. But even this can be a little bit tedious. Oh, keyboard. What's going on with you? Right. So now that we have predefined tagged values, we can very quickly add them to an element. Clicking on class 2, as before, clicking on the new tagged value, but this time instead of having to just type a tag value name in, I can select a predefined one from a drop-down list and add its value. And there we have the tag values beginning to appear as before. So a little bit quicker this time. Okay. And finally, part number. Okay. Now, even this is fairly tedious. So there are two different ways that you can pre-populate an element with a set of tagged values as soon as they're created from a toolbox, just like that. So this class 8 would have been generated with a set of predefined tagged values. One of those ways is to create an MDG technology where you can set up your own bespoke set of elements with predefined tagged values. The second way is to use Spark's EA scripting functions to apply tagged values to all elements on a diagram, within a package, or by some other search criteria. The scripting language is very powerful and lets you do quite a lot of editing and creation jobs through scripts.